Hi guys, for today's lesson we're going to be dealing with angles within parallel lines and a transversal. So first up we need to understand what this word transversal means. So a transversal is a straight line that crosses two or more straight lines. So we can see here we've got two straight lines in purple, and this transversal is going to cut straight through them. It's going to cross them. And the idea is that when a transversal, transversal does this sort of thing, it crosses two lines, you get 8 angles forming. So you can see 4 are here around that dot, this dot here, and there's 4 around this dot. So it's really important to understand how these, like what's happening with these 8 angles when you've got a transversal. Okay, so first up, corresponding angles. So they are 2 angles within a transversal that form an F shape together. So we're dealing with this sort of situation, and we need to be thinking to ourselves, what sort of angles out of these 8 are making an F shape? So if I look really closely at this diagram, I can see that this angle here 2 and this angle here 6 forms an F shape. You can kind of see from the highlighting that I've done when I've highlighted both of these angles that they kind of like make this F shape, as you can see. So therefore 2 and 6 are what we call corresponding angles. You can also see an F shape with 4 and 8. If I highlight both of those angles, 4 and 8, you can kind of see here this sort of F shape which is happening. So it's kind of like an F shape that's pointing downwards, but they're still going to be corresponding angles. Okay, next up is alternate angles. So they are 2 shapes within a transversal that form a Z shape. So instead of F, it's now a Z shape for alternate. If I look at my transversal, I see that 3 and 5 form a Z shape together, as you can kind of see here from the highlighting. It's a bit of a wonky looking Z, but it's still a Z sort of shape. Over here as well, we've got one with 4 and 6. You can see here it's a very wonky Z. It's like that Z's like being pulled out. It's been stretched. But again, it's still that sort of Z shape. So they are still alternate angles. Okay, next up are co-interior angles. So they are 2 angles within transversal that form a C shape together. So you can see here that, say, angle 3 and angle 6, they form this sort of C shape. It's a bit of a wonky C there, but it's still a C shape, and so therefore they are co-interior angles. And same with 4 and 5, they form this kind of stretched out C shape as well. Parallel lines, so they are 2 lines that have the same slope or gradient. And this is the symbol for it, these 2 like kind of lines. That means is parallel to. So it's saying that AB is parallel to CD. And we can see here that that AB and CD, they have the same slope. They're never going to touch each other. They're kind of like the train tracks in a way. That's what it means to be parallel. And these arrows indicate that that is actually the case, that those are parallel lines. Same thing here, 2 arrows on both of those lines indicate that these 2 lines are parallel to each other. So AE is parallel to DF, remember that symbol. Okay, so some rules to remember. So when 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, the following properties arise. So we get that corresponding angles, the F shape, remember, they become equal. So if your 2 lines that are being cut are parallel, suddenly you get that your F-shaped angles are equal. So for example, angle 1 is equal to angle 5. Because if I wrap around angle 1 and 5, you see this F shape occurring. And those angles are going to be equal if your lines are parallel. That's the idea. Same thing with angle 2 and 6. So if I wrap around angle 2 and angle 6, you see that F shape again. They are going to be equal angles. Alternate angles are also equal. They become equal. So alternate angles is alternates when you get the Z shape. So see here I can see angle 3 and angle 6. I'm wrapping around them in a Z shape there. They're going to be equal as well, as you can see here. Also the same things with angle 4 and angle 5. Okay, so, and also here, co-interior angles, they add up to 180 degrees. So for example, we've got angle 3 and 5, they're going to add up to 180. So if I wrap around 3 and 5, these two angles here are going to add up to 180 degrees. They're not going to be equal, they're going to add up to 180. Same thing here with 4 and 6. A good way to remember co-interior angles is that the interior of a car or some sort of place is the inside. And the inside angles of our lines are these ones. They're going to be co-interior, they add up to 180. Okay, so let's do some example questions. So, determine the value of each pronumeral giving reasoning. You need to be using words like corresponding, alternate, and co-interior with these sorts of reasonings. Okay, so we've got this diagram here. We've got lots of parallel lines there. We've got more parallel lines here. We've got to figure out what X, Y, and A all are, giving reasoning for our answer. So first up, we can say that X is equal to 40, and the reason is because X is going to be equal to that angle right there. And the reason is that they make an F shape in parallel lines. So I'll do that F a little bit nicer. So there's the F shape. I'm wrapping around that angle and that angle. So therefore they are going to be equal because corresponding angles are in parallel lines are definitely equal, as you can see here. Okay, next up we can see that our Y here up here is going to be equal to 180, take away this 40, and the reason is because these two angles make a C shape and they add up to 180. So I do 180, take away what I've got, this 40, and that leaves me over with 140. And you make sure your reasoning is put in. Co-interior angles in parallel lines. These are definitely co-interior angles together. They make that C shape, as you can see here. And lastly, A is equal to 40 because A is going to be alternate to this angle X, and we figured out X before. That X was 40 up here, so therefore A is also going to be 40 because alternate angles in parallel lines are equal. So whatever that is, A is the same. Yeah, good luck with the questions. Hope this helps.